Hoax, myth, or legend, we're searching for the truth. This is the Bigfoot, King of the Forest podcast. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Bigfoot, King of the Forest podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Loquist.
And I'm Sara Loquist.
Man, it has been a week. We were actually recording this podcast 4 days late?
Yeah.
Something like that. We ended up going down to New Orleans over the weekend. We went and saw Bush and Stone Temple Pilots and the Essence of the Cult. We ended up not actually staying for that. But, it was a pretty good show. We were definitely 90s kids and love that type of music. You know what I kind of noticed, though? And I don't remember this when we were younger. Bush and STP as well. Kind of bro dude music.
Bro dude?
There was a lot of bro dudes at that concert.
Was there a lot, or was it just centrally located behind us?
I don't know, man. I mean, to be fair, they were making me laugh. But So at one point, there was a drunk woman, before the show started, dancing into Journey. Because why wouldn't you dance to Journey if you're a middle-aged woman in
highly intoxicated
short shorts and thigh-high rain boots? But they ended up trying to bet each other, basically, as bro dudes do, to go up and dance with her. And, of course, none of them would do it because they're all a bunch of pansies. And finally, the dude that was sitting next to us with his girlfriend said, $100, I'll do it. I don't think they were expecting that.
And he did. He actually jumped up, ran down to the front, and was dancing behind her. She had no idea he was dancing with her until he started to walk away. So then he's starting to walk back up to us, and then she's trying to get his attention to come back down, and he sat down, and the guys behind him said, "Nope, you didn't do it, dude." He's like, "No, I danced with her," and he was like, "We'll do it $50. I half danced with her."
So they did, and then she noticed, and she tried to get him to come back down, so he ended up going down and talking to her, and they ended up actually dancing together. He got his extra $100, and he bought everybody drinks. So it wasn't too bad. That said, then we had a birthday party with the cutest little kid on earth, our niece, and that was Sunday at the zoo. Apparently there's some Rougarou stuff there, and I completely forgot. I wish I would have remembered that. We would have went and checked that out, but hey, that'll be for next time, down at the Audubon Zoo in New Orleans.
And we didn't realize either that they have a new splash pad water park, and we're like, well, next summer we'll go with the kids. Yeah. But our kids are teenagers. You know what, kids? Guess what? You're getting on your floaties, and we're going to the water park, and Dad's going to try to toss you in the air. Yeah, our kids are 20, 18, almost 17, and 16. So
yeah. So I don't know how much actual tossing is going to happen. Outside of that, man, it's just it's been a week trying to get things done. Went to jiu-jitsu tonight for the first time in like 2 months. My body hurts right now, pretty bad. You go in, you think to yourself, I'm gonna go choke somebody out, and then you get there and you get choked out because it's been 2 months since you've done anything, and now I just want painkillers and alcohol. And that's where I'm at in this life. So, welcome again to the Bigfoot, King of the Forest podcast, getting off track there right off the bat, as we do. Man, guess what? We got accepted to iTunes.
Yes.
It only took 2 weeks and several emails from me back and forth with Aaron. Aaron, you're not going to listen to this because you work at iTunes, and you probably have a million other things to do, but thank you for finally getting us pushed through. They did the pre-approval. If you ever publish a podcast or anything like that, I submitted everything, submitted the feed, everything checked out, said, waiting for review. I'm waiting, days go by, a week goes by. finally I reached out to the dude at Monstrosity Podcast, who is another new podcast y'all should check out. And I asked him, I was like, man, how long did it take you to get
your first episode
up? And he's like 2 hours. I was like, all right, something's wrong here. So I reached out. Turns out the image that I uploaded was in CMYK scale, color scale, and not RGB.
But they never told us.
But no one ever told. There was nothing there that said there was a problem. It just said waiting for review. Got that fixed. And yeah, within like 45 minutes, we were published. So yeah, check us out on iTunes finally. We're also on Podbean. We are on Podtail. We are on Stitcher. And we are on Google Play. So check us out. Follow us on there. Leave us a review because that helps us get seen and everything. We highly appreciate that.
And subscribe because then you'll know right away when there's a new podcast up.
So one thing I've been doing on the Twitter account is you can go to twitter.com/king_Bigfoot. That is us. The one thing I've been doing on our Twitter account is some polls. I got one currently running. If y'all want to go on there, it's the top pinned post at this time. But we did one last week, and it was, if Bigfoot were to play a musical instrument, what instrument would that be?
Didn't we kind of start talking about it on the...
We did, and that's kind of...
On the Lost Tapes?
Kind of sparked me into this. And apparently I do post to Twitter quite a bit, because I'm scrolling through trying to find it now. Give us a follow on there. It's kind of fun. We're also on Facebook and on Instagram. And we do have a couple contests going right now. You can actually win a Bigfoot King of the Forest sticker. Go on to our Facebook page, like the post, follow the page, share it, and we're going to pick 10 people on Friday this week, August 17th. Go ahead and do that. Only 9 votes. It's early. We don't got a whole lot of followers yet. And I have a feeling like half of these are friends and children. Yeah, most people think the banjo. The choices were banjo, bongos, harmonica, and guitar, or write in your own vote. We did have a couple of write-ins on different platforms for the stand-up bass. I don't know if you saw the picture from the last one. We actually have a stand-up bass of Bigfoot. If you're into it, stop on by. You can play the stand-up bass at our house. I was a bongos guy. I think he's smoking weed and playing bongos or eating some mushrooms. Yeah, the banjo won out. And that makes sense to me. He's kind of a redneck hillbilly kind of guy.
Living in the forest, living in the woods.
Yeah.
That's why I know a popular one, at least with our friends, was the harmonica, because he's a nomad, so he's got a pack light, and his nomad can fit in his backpack, his knapsack, his fanny pack, whatever it is that he hauls his personal belongings with.
So this week, what we got going on is, if Bigfoot was a drinker, or is a drinker, depending on your, philosophical slant on the big guy, what do you feel his drink of choice is? Again, leave any additional comments. No comments yet, but we do have 14 votes, which I'm kind of happy with.
Wow.
Not all kids and friends.
Yeah.
The choices are whiskey, rum, moonshine, and craft beer, and right now, moonshine is the big winner, followed by craft beer.
I think banjo and moonshine, I think those go hand in hand with each other.
I think there's a theme.
Yeah.
That there's a theme going on with Bigfoot. Outside of that, a few news stories this week. Man, some of the big ones that I got here are there. Do you remember Whitehall, New York? Remember a few weeks ago we were talking about the very first episode? Whitehall, New York had made Bigfoot the official animal.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Turns out on August 7th, there was a Bigfoot sighting.
Really?
Guy was driving down Route 4. You can find this a post on this on our blog. But yeah, he was driving down Route 4. Saw himself a Bigfoot. And, apparently they said this is pretty common. I'm trying to get to the... Paul Bartholomew is the researcher that is checking it out. He said it's actually a very typical type of sighting. It's called a road crossing sighting. So basically, dude's driving down the road. Mm-hmm. Bigfoot just kind of he was at... I don't even remember when we lived in Iowa. I was...
Well, you told me about that.
Yeah. I used to drive for Krispy Kreme. I used to be a truck driver, and I started out with Krispy Kreme, delivering donuts. Best way to get a job at Krispy Kreme is tell them that you hate their donuts. They will hire you in a heartbeat. But I was driving around, this Native American dude, and he was super into Sasquatch and all that stuff. And, man, something jumped out ahead of us and crossed the road. It was him and I. I was like, gotta be deer. You know, it was dark. But he swears up and down it was a Bigfoot. So that is the closest I have come to a Bigfoot sighting is, I'm pretty sure it was a deer, but he claims it was a Bigfoot. Didn't get a good look at it, but, you know, you never know. Another weird, not Bigfoot cryptid related at all, Berlin is having a tough time with some invasive crustaceans that you and I both love.
The crawfish?
The Louisiana crawfish has apparently taken over a stream in Tiergarten Park, and they are having a hard time getting people to kind of like latch on to the idea of
eating
them. And they're having they started at a few hundred, then all of a sudden it was 3,000. They think it's like 30,000 this year.
Wow.
People of Berlin, I have a solution.
Have yourself a boil.
Get yourself about 20 pots. Spend a few $1,000. Get some Cajuns. Fly them on over. Get some seasoning. Have them bring their own. Don't even worry about it. They got this. In a weekend, your crawfish problem is solved. I would even go have a part in that. And I can't eat near as much as some of these Cajun boys down here. But
how did they get there?
I'm guessing somebody brought them over and dropped them in.
I guess it's
alligator
possible.
in the sewer type thing.
It could be possible Gulf seafood or something. One of them or a couple of them just snuck in a bag or something.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get into how they got there, but normally it's like somebody traveled over, they traveled back, brought some with them, couldn't handle them.
Brought them as a pet.
Pretty soon you got a 10-foot alligator in your sewers. That's just how these things happen. Yeah, man. So apparently, ghost sightings may be tied to climate change. So, over in Britain, the Plymouth Paranormal Investigators, led by one, where is his name? Gary Parsons, noticed they've been getting a lot more calls since his country's heat wave started recently. So he's going to be doing some testing. He says, we received a major spike in the number of calls during June and July, with people reporting scary supernatural phenomena. One couple almost afraid to go into their own home because of poltergeists and residual energies making things move. So yeah, they're kind of checking this out. They're thinking that maybe these ghosts are getting all hot and bothered.
Hot and bothered, literally?
Literally hot and bothered. I'm thinking, I've got the whole, on our blog I posted about this, and I got a picture of Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
With the very phallic...
The pottery wheel. Spinning.
Yeah. I'm just imagining that's what it's like.
I'm constantly sending you things.
You are constantly sending me things.
That has become our Facebook Messenger back and forth, is things that I find because it's just easier just to send them a message really quick on Messenger.
So I get off work and I open my Facebook Messenger, or I go to lunch or whatever, and there's about 15 messages of things. The other thing is the ticked-off Bigfoot growls caught on video. I'm going to play this video. You'll be able to hear it, listeners. I'm not sold on this, but it's interesting. Check it out. So it starts off with just like a camera facing some woods. And this is on our blog as well. And that goes on for about 3 minutes. There's some more whoops. A few more growls. Looks like near the camera, the leaves are shaking a little bit. Like I said, I'm not sold. To me, that sounds very... Roar. I can do that.
Roar?
Whoop. Whoop. Roar. That's me, not the tape. Like, I'm not sold. And just the way it's set up and everything, it just seems very... But apparently this video was like... It was on the Sun.uk, which is not a reputable source by any means, but it's getting all over the place.
So, on the websites you're not supposed to go to for your news.
Absolutely. But, you know, go ahead and check out, it's the Weekly Strange, week of August 12th. Those stories are there. Yeah, let's get into our thing. Do you want to go first, or do you want to... So we're going to do something a little bit different this week. I think we both chose a thing, a strange event. Could be, I don't know, you can probably hear the dogs outside the door whining right now. Just something strange that kind of intrigues us. And we said, since it's just me and Sarah this week, let's sit down and we're going to kind of talk about it. So I'm going to let Sarah go first because I talk a lot. And...
Well, no, we're going to do it so I don't feel stupid following you.
Yeah, whatever. Here we go.
Okay. So, like I was telling Jeff, I've really gotten into this podcast called My Favorite Murder on, which some of you have maybe heard it, maybe not, but they after they got into it a while, like they're up to episode like 165 or something like that, but when they got a healthy amount into the number of podcasts, they realized that they're very depressing because they're talking about murders and all so very dark and depressing. And so in the more recent episodes, they've started having their weekly yay or, you know, just something good that happened. Like they challenged all their listeners to go to yoga once a week and so come back. And well, it was an episode, I think last week or maybe the week before, they were talking about they were watching Ancient Aliens. I can't remember who it was, Karen or Georgia, the two girls on it. I think it was Karen, but don't quote me. I'm not sure. Was watching Ancient Aliens, and it was an episode that really intrigued her. So she came on and she was talking about it, and I was like, okay, that's definitely what I want to talk about because I think this is something that Jeff and I have actually kind of talked about before, but we haven't actually used this idea or these terms or anything like that. But I was like, I thought we could have a really healthy conversation on this. It's the Akashic Record, or you've never heard of it? Like looking at your face.
Akashic Record?
Mm-hmm. It's the Akasha, which is the Sanskrit word for sky, and it's basically okay. So I'm like, you're intrigued.
Let's do this.
Okay, so this is basically it's a state of consciousness that's called the cosmic consciousness. Basically, a record of the entire history of the universe. So basically, in Hindu scripture, Narada had. One of the gods, Narada, had the supernatural ability to gain access to a hidden domain that most humans are completely unaware of, the realm of cosmic knowledge. Narada transcended consciousness to gather his stories and give teachings of this great wisdom. So basically what this believes, Akasha, it basically just says that all knowledge that we know has always existed. So if we can get into... So if we can, through deep prayer and meditation, that we can reach this knowledge that's always been there. And so they're saying that extraterrestrials, you know, any living entity, biological entity can gain access to it. So aliens and...
So is this kind of going on with the kind of the Graham Hancock thoughts? I don't know if you ever... read Finger of the Gods. Anybody out there? So Graham Hancock. I want to say he's a anthropologist.
Okay.
But he theorizes that this is not the first time that civilization has been as advanced as it is.
Right, and that's what me and you talk about this all the time,
Mm-hmm.
about how the Romans were very, very advanced.
And when they burned the books of Rome, who knows what was lost?
When Rome fell. And so basically this kind of goes along those same philosophy, is that we can tap into that same knowledge that that the Romans had, and like in the Ancient Aliens episode, they actually, so how do you say his name? Deepak Chopra?
Oh,
But
that's how I say his name.
okay. But they actually, because of his meditation and all that kind of stuff, they actually have him go into his meditative state and with the electrodes and everything. And so they're able to actually watch that he has nothing going on. Like he's a completely blank slate in his mind. Like he's able to not think about anything. But then parts in his brain like start, getting energy, like places that normally wouldn't be having activity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's just going into that when you get into that. Okay, you were like looking at me.
You are losing me with a Deepak.
Okay, but how they were just using him as like being able to meditate and getting into that and everything. But so basically watching this episode and everything. So back in 1923, there was this girl named Baba Vanga. She actually, her and her sisters were caught up in a tornado, and so she was actually thrown up in the volcano. She was thrown up in the tornado, and when she came back down, her eyes were completely caked with sand and dust, and so she was blind. She became blinded.
Sure.
Well, then she actually ended up becoming a blind prophet, and so they're just saying that she ended up having prophecies, like she prophesied September 11th. She prophesied that huge earthquake off of Indonesia. She prophesied that the 44th president was going to be a black man. Like she said, she said that like back in the 60s or whatever, that the 44th president was going to be a black man. But it was just they were just saying that somebody who was uneducated, she was illiterate, she had never been to school, all these things that she was able to prophesize. And that's why just the belief that going back to this record that she was able to get, just like Nostradamus, like the prophecies and stuff are this record. But the biggest thing that like it was saying in here is how the shared consciousness or whatever. So in here it talks about Einstein's discovery of relativity was simultaneously discovered by a French theoretical physicist, Poincare, at the same time. Just Einstein beat him to it. The radio was developed by both Nikola Tesla and Guglielmo Marconi at the same time. Mm-hmm. Just Tesla got... And then they said during World War II, British engineer Sir Frank Whittle and German physicist Hans von Ohain both invented the jet engine at the same time. And since they were both on different sides of the war, everything that there was no idea, they would have had no idea that they were both coming up with it at the same time. So I'm like, yeah, it's just like going through this, I'm like, it just fascinated me because it really does go into what we've talked about before. And like Baba Vanga had like 3 other prophecies that it'll be out of our lifetime to ever see if they come true. She said 2130 we will have human colonies deep under the ocean that will be created with the assistance of extraterrestrial beings. I don't know. 2183 humans will already have a colony on Mars. The colony will revolt, ultimately leading to a nuclear confrontation. And in 2221, humanity in search of alien life would come into contact with the knowledge of something absolutely horrific. And it doesn't say what she believes that's going to be. So 2221, is she, prophesizing the end of Earth as we know it? The apocalypse?
And if she's right, Trump's going to be pissed. Because that means Space Force ain't going to happen right the way he wants it to. Space Force!
Okay, so speaking of Space Force, so our almost 17-year-old daughter, I'll call her our 17-year-old daughter, came to me and she said, do you know what's really depressing? And I told her, what? And she goes, now we know that there's no such thing as aliens. I told her, I was like, why? Why do you believe that? And she goes, because if there really was, Trump would have blabbed it all over Twitter already. So I told her, I was like, that's interesting. I was like, but let's think about it this way. Maybe that's why he's pushing for Space Force so bad, is because he knows. So Area 51, you know.
I'm not going to get political on this podcast. I take pretty much everything he says with a grain of salt. I think that he woke up one night and Starship Troopers was on the television and he thought it was Fox News. That's my theory.
Yeah. There's more I want to say on that, but I'm not going to.
Anyway. Space Force! That's interesting. And yeah, we do talk about it quite a bit. Like, the idea that... Well, your whole theory with aliens anyway.
Yeah. Is
that we are not... There's no way that we are the final product.
Yeah, I've actually said this before. Like, Jeff and I can get into religion all day long. Like, I grew up Christian because that was the only way. Like, my option was to either be a Satan worshiper or a Christian. I did not even grow up that there was an option to be atheist, like to just not believe. Like my option was you believed in Satan or you're a Christian. Well, then Jeff and I started dating, and he kind of like opened my mind to other possibilities that atheism isn't, you know. So going from there, like with aliens and everything, and I just don't believe that how screwed up the human race is and how screwed up illnesses, war, disasters. I just don't believe that if God, this was his only shot. He did it one time and that was it. How can we be that ignorant to believe, if you believe in God, that we're the final product? No, he was creating people all over the place, and like, were we his first attempt? And he was like, oh my God, these people are screwed up and there's a far advanced society somewhere else. Or are there, you know, God, what's the movie, Idiocracy?
Oh my God. We're kind of in that. We're heading that way right now.
But I mean, even so far beyond. Like, is that a society that we have, you know, on another planet, you know, light years away? Is people going around clubbing each other, and then we get us where we're like the middle ground? Or
I think we're 2 Gatorades away from a President Camacho, is what I think. Man, that's it. That is interesting. That was good. I like this. So yeah, that was really interesting. Anything else to add on it before we move on?
No, and that's what I was apologizing. I'm like, yeah, my first time, you know, coming with my research or my own own topic, and
I think you did really good. I don't know what you're apologizing for here. All right, before I even get into this, you know my thing about telephones. I don't like talking on telephones.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were some conspiracy theory about telephones.
It's a little bit of a conspiracy theory. So I have this weird thing about I don't like talking on telephones. And I'm going to let the crazy out a little bit here. It's because you can't guarantee that the person on the other line is actually that person, or they don't have like a gun to their head and they're being forced to tell you things. Okay. Like, you don't know that.
I thought you were going somewhere completely
That's why when
different.
somebody calls you up and they're like, hey man, I need a favor, I need this, I'd much rather just talk to somebody in person because I'm a lunatic a bit. But yeah, that's you know, I have a lot of theories about telephones.
Okay, well, I was just, well, you were saying, I completely thought you were going to go in a different direction, because I know your other problem with the telephone too.
Yeah.
Do you know where I'm going?
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Jeff does not like talking on the phone because he doesn't know if you're on the toilet.
This is because I've had experience.
Plop, plop.
I've been on the phone with people talking, and you hear the distinct plop. And I understand that most people would probably just like, I'm going to let that go. I will call your ass out. I'll be like, What are you doing?
I think it's the ones where the people walk in the bathroom, the public bathroom, on the phone talking, go into the stall, still talking, go into the bathroom, still talking, and then walk back out.
If you're talking, you're also not washing your hands, and that's nasty as hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress from the telephones. I have something about a telephone. So imagine being lost in the desert.
Okay.
You're miles from any type of civilization.
Okay.
Miles from paved roads, any kind of services. There's no stores. There's no houses.
Okay.
For miles. Nothing. Except a phone booth.
Okay.
A phone booth literally in the middle of nowhere. Is it intriguing?
Yeah.
What happens if this phone rings and there's only coyotes and rattlesnakes to hear it?
Yeah.
It just echoes into nothing. But what if somebody answered? These were the thoughts going through Godfrey Daniels' mind when he read an article by happenstance in a zine called Wig Out Magazine in 1997.
Okay.
For over a month, he dialed the phone with increasing frequency. In his words, I was just imagining making a phone ring out where presumably no one could hear it except the coyotes. But then there was also in the back of your mind the thought, what if? What if somebody is wandering by? Who'd be out there in the middle of the desert? Who would pick up? He called the number every single day.
So was the phone number in the article that you read?
It was in the article.
Okay, because I was like, how would you just find out the phone number?
Yep, it was in the article. He called it every single day, and then increasing, wondering the whole time. And then one day he got a busy signal.
Oh.
He called the number over and over and over until the busy signal gave way to a ring. And a woman picked up.
Okay.
The woman was Lorraine, a cinder miner who lived off the grid. She used the phone booth for her personal whatever.
Okay.
Correspondences. Rather than ruining the mystery, however, the existence of Lorraine only further intrigued Daniels. Now he knew the phone was real and that he could visit it.
Okay.
It's known as the loneliest phone booth in the world. But from the late 90s to around 2000, the Mojave Phone Booth built up kind of a cult following.
Yeah.
The bizarre thing was that the phone booth was... It's bizarre that there was a phone booth in the middle of the Mojave, and even more bizarre after the increased popularity of mobile phones. It was still there. Nobody ever got rid of it.
Well, I guess I would just think that in the middle of the desert you wouldn't have any cell service anyways.
Right.
So I think that phone booth is in its own realm of as far as it's considered, cell phones don't exist.
But have you ever been someplace and like you just see a phone booth?
Okay.
And you're like, or a pay phone, and you're like, what the hell?
Okay, so maybe you'll get into this, but my question is, okay, the telephone lines have to be buried under the sand somewhere,
mm-hmm.
or is it using satellite, or...
So it was, I'll get into that a little bit.
Okay.
So the Mojave phone was mysterious. People have mobile phones, and they work. They work out in the desert, depending on what kind of service you get. But the Mojave phone booth was mysterious. It was something that the mobile phone could never be. Like, so why? It was erected sometime during the late 60s. During the late part of the 20th century, the legend of the Mojave phone booth only grew larger and weirder. It got to the point when not only people called it on a regular basis, but they also made pilgrimages out to the phone booth so they could answer an incoming call from a mysterious stranger. So people would actually go out to the desert and pilgrimage out there just to wait by the phone booth for somebody to call.
To be the person.
51-year-old Rick Carr claims that he received a holy vision telling him to go answer the phone. He did, camping out in the desert for 32 days and answering more than 500 calls from people as nearby as Phoenix, as far away as Newfoundland, and some were just normal, lonely, and some a bit more strange, like the ones from Sergeant Zeno from the Pentagon.
Oh, wow. I was going to say it's almost like calling Santa Claus.
Right. Which is kind of interesting. Another topic for another time. Unfortunately, all weird and wonderful things come to an end, and in 2000, Pacific Bell, because they suck, disconnected the phone number. and they remove the phone book at the request of the National Park Service because they also sometimes suck. Because
you said in 2000?
Yep.
Is that about the time all the phone booths started going away?
Roughly. Late 90s, early 2000s. The phone booth was in rough shape, to be fair.
Okay.
Like, there was no glass on it. Like, it was worn and chipped. There were bullet holes.
What was their whole reasoning behind removing it? Because I know, like,
it was. I think this reason. It had bullet holes throughout it.
Oh, it was more
people
of a...
People were leaving trinkets and offerings, license plates, naked dolls scribbled on the phone booth. So after a while, they were probably just like, okay, this is not just an eyesore. This is like... After the phone booth was gone, though, a tombstone was erected.
Oh.
And it sat as a testament to the weird and lonely, but it was also removed after a while. However, thanks to a group of internet hackers, the phone number is up and running without the phone booth and still connects people all over the world to others. And all of them are a tiny patch of desert surrounded by Joshua trees in the middle of the Mojave National Preserve at the turnoff for SEMA between Baker and Vegas. So people still call this number. Oh. The number is 760-733-9969. You know what? I called it.
Okay.
That's what I was doing the other night when I was coming in here.
Oh.
Turns out you can call the line and you'll be placed on a conference line. Much like Call in the Desert, there may be someone waiting on the other end. You may find yourself listening to nothing but the sound of your own voice and some music. So I called it. I got the music. Nobody answered. There's basically, you can pick 1 through 9 conference lines. Then I called the number, and I got a text message both times I called.
So that somebody texted you back?
Yeah. Each time I clicked a conference line, I got a text message, and it said, "Do you want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes?"
Oh.
And then these weird-ass characters.
Okay.
Man, I dug into this. Like, I was down the rabbit hole, basically.
Okay.
Like, I pulled all this stuff off the phone. I'm on the computer trying to figure out, what does this mean? The closest I can get, some say that it's like Navajo code talk, like they used back in World War II. I could not find... I found a thing online that, like, referenced that and, like, you know, translated it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get that to happen. But apparently it changes.
So, like, that's per day, or...
No, it, like, I called I clicked on 2 different numbers, and I got 2 different codes, basically.
Oh, well, when you first showed them to me, they looked the same.
Right, because it's all gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
Call the number. Some people are saying don't call the number because it might be some crazy thing. I say call the number. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
One dude said he called it, like he didn't believe it on Reddit. I was all over Reddit. And I don't even get on Reddit, but I was all over Reddit with this. He said he found the number, and most people were like, man, all I get is these text messages back. And he was like, no, man. He's like, one time I hit 9, and I ended up, this dude was on there. Like, he was like, after a few minutes of silence, it was like, hello? And he goes, it was just this dude from, like, Phoenix. They just talked for, like, 30 minutes.
So it's just 2 separate people who both dial the number? It's just somebody happens to...
They both happen to hit the conference line. So people do this to this day. They call these numbers. Sometimes you get nothing, and sometimes you get somebody...
Called at the same
you
time
get somebody from Newfoundland. You can get somebody from, like, you know, China, and, you know, whatever. Like, people just call this number and then try to connect with somebody. It's kind of interesting. They actually made a movie about it. In the middle of the Mojave Desert rests an abandoned phone booth, riddled with bullet holes, graffiti, its windows broken, but otherwise functioning. Its identity was born on the internet, and for years, travelers would make the trek down a lonely dirt road and camp next to the booth, in the hopes that it might suddenly ring, and they could connect with a stranger, often from another country, on the other end of the line. This is the story of 4 disparate people whose lives intersect with a mystical outpost in the comfort they seek in a stranger's voice. There is Beth, a troubled woman facing dilemmas with her love life and a recurring baffling crime. Mary, a young South African who is contemplating selling her body for the funds to escape her dreadful existence. Alex, a woman who is losing her lover, Glory, to the belief that she is plagued by aliens, and Richard, driven into desperation by the separation from his wife, who happens upon the phone booth after his failed suicide attempt. Exploring themes of love, death, the mastery of the universe, and the phenomena of interconnectivity, Mojave Phone Booth pitches us deep into the lives of psyches of these working-class characters in Las Vegas. I kind of want to see it. It was released in 2006. We might have to dig on the internet to find it.
I've never even heard of it.
The story speaks to me, though, because it's like, this is more than a phone booth. This is lonely souls.
I think it goes down to the whole idea of pen pals. Like, I love the idea of pen pals. Like, back when we were in grade school and, you did it as a class, you just wrote this letter to another third grader in another state, and you had no idea who this person was, but you formed a friendship. Like, you found commonalities between the two of you that you could form a friendship on. And I think it's the same thing, because even as adults, like, I think you kind of get into your everyday mundane existence that you search out new and interesting people, but it's hard to do. So you basically, like, you have your work friends that you spend 40 hours a week with, and so for the most part, I think besides you, like, I don't talk about personal life at work. Like, I keep it very professional, where some of our best friends you work with, so you see them on a day-to-day basis, but when you leave work, you come home and you're with your family and your kids, and majority, I'd say probably 75% of adults, the only people that they really see are their family and work. Like, do they have people that they hang out with? And so I completely agree with this, that you're constantly searching for people.
And I think it says a lot to the world we live in nowadays. This isn't like the 1920s, where, like, you stay with your family, you stayed in your community. You may travel for a vacation a few hundred miles, but you're coming home. That's not the world we live in anymore.
It used to be. Like, it was these people you grew up with.
I have no expectations of our children staying close. I expect them to go out and find their place in the world, to go live in New York or go live in Paris or maybe down the street. Who knows? But there's no expectation anymore for children to stay close. And I've said it before, and I'm saying it right now, publicly to my children. When I get old, you are not going to burden yourself with me. Yeah. Like, that is I think that's a concept that is going away. But yeah, and that's, the final thing I put down on this was that it's basically lonely souls searching for other lonely souls. There's a longing that someone is out there hoping, sitting by the phone, waiting for you to call. We're often disappointed with only our own thoughts to keep us, but sometimes there's someone out there in the ether, looking for someone like them. Like, that's kind of, I think this story kind of spoke to me, is just the loneliness of it.
Did you say out there in the ether?
Yeah.
The Sanskrit word for that is Akasha. How did we link these together not meaning to?
We're here, baby.
That is amazing. That is...
All right. I think that's pretty much it for today. I am going to leave you with, from the Bigfoot King of the Forest home offices in Indianola, Iowa. I have the top 10 list for this week. Top 10 reasons Mrs. Squatch says no.
Okay.
Number 10, I can't tonight. I've had a hard day squatching. Number 9, you're not putting that thing in me. Number 8, I think I've had too many of those magic mushrooms.
Oh.
Number 7, you smell like a damn skunk ape. Number 6, I saw the way you were looking at that chupacabra earlier. Number 5, you try and feel sexy with these hairy legs, and hairy back, and hairy neck, and hairy arms.
Oh dear.
Number 4, did you remember the sheepskin condoms?
How does she get those?
Chupacabra. Number 3, she was out all night tree knocking again. Number 2, I have a headache, because that works no matter what species you're in, apparently. And the number one reason Mrs. Squatch says no, those damn humans are watching again.
Oh, yeah, no.
Man, thanks for listening again this week. Bigfoot, King of the Forest, podcast number 2 is complete. I hope everybody has a good week, and we will hopefully talk at you pretty soon. Oh, and if you have any stories to share that you'd like us to read on air, we are still looking for Bigfoot, Chupacabra,
Ghosts, paranormal.
Yeah, any kind of paranormal stories.
Weird.
Just weird, interesting stories. We would love to either share them on the blog or on the podcast. You can email us at stories@bigfootkingoftheforest.com. Look forward to talking to everybody next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Bigfoot, King of the Forest podcast. The underlying track today was Face of Peyote by Purple Six Records on looperman.com.